Joining me today is Mayor Byron Browm of Buffalo, New York. It is the city back in May that police say Peyton Gendron went on a shooting rampage at a top supermarket on the city's east side, killing 10 black people. He even streamed it partly on social media. Since that awful day in my hometown where I grew up, that community has taken steps to heal from this, but it definitely is far from over. Mayor Byron Browm, thank you for joining us on the BIN.
It's good to be with you, Esther.
Well, how are you and the community doing these days? And what has the healing process been like for you in the community?
Well, May 14th, 2022 is probably one of the most painful periods in the entire history of the city of Buffalo. People are in various stages of healing. We are a resilient community. It was amazing how people wrapped their arms around each other, wrapped their arms around the families of the victims, the survivors, and lifted each other up during that very difficult and dark period of time. The outpouring of love and support from the city, from the region, and from across the nation, just absolutely incredible. It was looked at as not only an attack on Black Buffalo, but as an attack on Black America. And we have done a number of things to heal from that. Reopen the supermarket. It's reopened better than before with more product offerings, with new security systems, with more healthy food choices and options, and shopping ever since the store reopened in July has been very, very brisk. So it is good that store is reopened in the community. City has implemented a number of additional security measures in that immediate area. There was a fund to help the victims' families, to help the survivors, to help the store employees. Money from that fund has been distributed. Millions of dollars were raised to help families who suffered through that horrible incident. Finally, the governor and I announced that we would be doing a 514 memorial commission to build a memorial in that area to remember the lives of the precious people that were taken from us in that mass shooting, that act of domestic terrorism.
You covered a lot of ground there, and I'm definitely going to have to go back a little bit over some of the things that you talked about in terms of healing that community. Since the shooting, as you said, there was a lot of monetary donations around the world that poured into the area. And thankfully, something called the Buffalo 514 Survivors Fund was established. This fund was created in partnership with TOPS and the National Compassion Fund to provide direct financial assistance to the survivors of victims, as well as individuals who were directly affected. The fund raised about $5.5 million, and just a few weeks ago, they started giving those funds out to people who had applied for that financial help. From what you are hearing from the community, was the fund handled correctly?
I think something like that is challenging. I think the fund has done the best that it can, given very difficult circumstances, people in different stages of trauma, dealing with different types of trauma, affected in different ways. Some people are happy with the disbursement of funds. Some people are not. Some people feel like they were more adversely affected and needed more support. So it was a challenging situation, a painful situation, and the process of trying to help people heal financially, emotionally, spiritually, and allocating resources to be part of that process is not an easy one. I understand that, and understand that some people will be happy and others will not.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the fact that there were some TOPS employees that had brought up the fact that they had felt like their voices had not been heard, and they felt like that they didn't have a seat at the table in the negotiations for those millions of dollars, and that they received something around $9,500 a person. And some of the workers said, I thought they had a legitimate, complaint, or at least a point, saying that the need for mental health services and compensation should be considered. What have you said to them? Have you had talks with some of those folks?
I have spoken to some of those folks, and they are individuals that are feeling trauma. They are individuals that are grieving. And so the better approach, the best approach is to listen, is to be there, is to be an ear, a listening ear, a shoulder, if necessary. That's what I've tried to do as mayor. The city did not have a seat on the 514 Compassion Fund. I think it was probably a good decision not to have the city seated as part of that process. When we have heard things from store employees, from family members of victims, from survivors of the shooting, we have tried to refer that information, those concerns, to the 514 Compassion Fund, to the district attorney's victim advocate, so that people are aware of how people are feeling, what people are saying, and can be responsive to the needs of the community.
Well, you were one of the folks who brought that supermarket to be built right there. And I remember when it opened, it was a big deal because there was like only Central Park Plaza with Super Duper and a Tops Market on that side. And everyone was extremely happy to have more choices on where to shop on the east side. But given the fact that what happened there, did you think it really was a good move to put it right back in the same place where so much death and pain was associated with that location?
I think it did make sense to reopen the store at the same location. Tops was willing to do that. I think to force a new location could have taken several years to bring another supermarket back to the community. Again, there were some that felt that was a source of pain, a place of murder, and that it shouldn't reopen. Those voices were in the minority of the community. The vast majority of the community wanted the store to reopen. Over the years, the store has become a center of community, with many seniors shopping there, with many community members coming there. People see family and friends and neighbors at the store.
I know it seems as if, for me, when I look back at Buffalo and see that area, it kind of reflects a lot of different communities around the country where you have one central store or one place in which a community like the East Side has. And I feel like you've made a really big investment in trying to help that area in the Jefferson Avenue area to grow so it has more things put into it. But do you think that community maybe needs even more investment than it has been so far that empowers the community? And if so, what?
The community absolutely needs more investment, but there has been significant investment in the area. So the store, a significant investment. As you mentioned, I was a leader in working and fighting and negotiating to get the store there in the first place. When the store came, it was a major victory for that part of the city. There is now a new library just down the block. There is a telecommunications facility down the block that the city has continued to invest in and the community uses significantly. There is new housing on the block. There is a new bank on the block now on Jefferson Avenue, a Northwest Savings Bank. There is a financial wellness center on the street, and probably another $100 million in development projects that already have been announced that are coming, and over $20 million in infrastructure funding that has been announced by myself and Governor Hochul and other elected representatives that will be coming to Jefferson Avenue as well.
You've announced that Governor Kathy Hochul will be, and yourself, are erecting a new memorial in honor of those victims. Why did you think that it was really important to do, and where do you think that that it would be good for it to sit?
Talking with members of the community, colleagues in government, business people, we want to rebuild the East Buffalo area bigger and better, more resource than ever before. But we want to do that throughout the city of Buffalo as well. And in talking to the governor, it just came to my mind that we needed to find a meaningful way to remember the precious lives that were lost. And when you look at all 10 people, there was something unique and special with all of these individuals. They were deeply loved by their families. They were very active, most of them in the Buffalo community. And so we want to do a world-class, a national caliber memorial to the individuals that were taken from us, that people will come to see nationally and internationally.
Wow. Oh, this sounds like an exciting exciting piece that you're going to be working together on. I'm sure it's going to take some time to put together. I wanted to also touch upon something that happened just literally a few weeks ago. New York Attorney General Letitia James, she released a report alleging that several online platforms played a role in the May 14th mass shooting by radicalizing the suspect. What do you think of that report, and what action do you think that needs to be happening after that report?
I think Attorney General Letitia James and her staff did an in-depth amount of work preparing the report. They did significant research. In the aftermath of the shooting, many of us, myself and other elected officials, family members of victims, family members of survivors, have been able to travel to New York City, to Albany, to Washington, D.C., and talk about things that we think could make a difference. This particular shooting, this act of domestic terrorism, was fueled by white supremacy. It was fueled by racial hatred. And so we have to monitor the internet better. We have to police social media better. And we have to make it difficult for white supremacy, hate speech of any type to be able to proliferate on social media. And I think Attorney General James's research and report helps lay out a roadmap for doing that.
Well, finally, so many again have reached out to Buffalo from around the world, offering their heartfelt condolences and love to you all. And then right after that, unfortunately, this horrific Uvalde school shooting happened. Do you and others in Buffalo in the area feel like that there's been so much gun violence in the last few months? that some of the things that need to be addressed there may have gotten forgotten, or perhaps you haven't gotten as much focus as you should?
I think there's been significant focus on Buffalo. We have had the opportunity to be listened to by the President of the United States, the Vice President, the Attorney General of the United States has been here in Buffalo. Cabinet secretaries have been here. We've been to the White House. We've met with cabinet secretaries. We have been in New York City with Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Hochul and other elected officials for the release of the state of New York legislation on gun reform, which is some of the strongest legislation in the nation. So I think we are being listened to. I have also reached out to so many other mayors and municipal leaders who have experienced this after we experienced it in Buffalo, just to lend support, to pray together, to talk together. Just recently reached out to my colleague, Mayor Tashura Jones from St. Louis, where they just experienced a shooting in that community that was terrible. This is happening all too often in the United States of America. We are the only civilized country where we're seeing mass shootings like this with this kind of frequency. And so we have a responsibility, we have an obligation to continue to lift our voices, to not be silenced, to push for sensible gun reform, to push to end white supremacy and hate speech on social media, and to protect our communities all across this country. So I think Buffalo is being heard. I think Buffalo is being seen, but we're also helping other communities to be heard and seen as well.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor Byron Browm, for joining us on the BIN.
Thank you so much. It's great to be with you.
I'm Esther Dillard on the